Hi there, and welcome to an episode of Come Railfan With Me. Today I'm going to talk about my DJI Mavic Air drone and the pre-flight checks that I do before I fly it. So, I've recently bought the drone back in, I think it was around Christmas, just after Christmas of 2018. I didn't get a chance to fly it a whole lot because I live in Winnipeg and it's cold, and it's way too cold to fly a drone when it's minus 25 out and your fingers will freeze, and that's no good. So now that it's March and it's warmer out, I'm starting to fly it more and getting a little more formal in how I get ready to fly. So pre-flight checks basically are to make sure everything is ready to go before you fly the drone. And I take it pretty seriously because in Canada the regulations for flying drones are pretty serious, and the fines are pretty bad if you don't do it right. So it's important to take the flying a drone seriously in Canada. So what do I start with? First thing you check with is make sure your batteries are charged up. So there's really, for the DJI, there's really two parts to the flying the drone. There's the drone itself and there's the controller. So this is the controller, and so you've got the controller with these fold-out arms, and what these arms are for is here are to hold your phone or your tablet or whatever you're going to use. It comes with its own cable here, which plugs into the side, right into this little container, the little socket. Sorry, not container, socket. I find that doesn't work really well, so there is another USB port on the controller right here, much more reliable. So I just got a short little lightning cable for my phone. Now, in order to check the battery power on this, you just press the power button once, and you get 4 bars, all good. So usually your drone is going to run out of battery way before this controller will, so it's not really a concern, but of course check the battery. Now, checking the battery on the drone, here's my drone case. The case came with it. Here's the drone in the case. You pop that out, and here on the bottom, I'm going to just do a little careful covering here, because one of the things in Canada is that in the current regulations you must have your name, your phone number, and your address on your drone. That's going to change in June of 2019, but currently you have to have your name, address, and phone number, and I don't really want to put that on the internet, so I'm going to carefully put my thumb over it, my hand over it. But there's the battery, it's in the bottom of that, and there's a button you press right here. See the lights there. It doesn't show in the video, but they lit up to 4 bars. So 4 bars is good, it's full. If you need to charge it, you can pop the battery out and pop it in the charger. It takes about 45 minutes and it goes to a full charge. Flight time for DJI Mavic Air is around 25 minutes. A little less when it's cold, like it was today when I flew. So you usually want to have more than one battery. I should stop and explain, my fingers here are painted because my son wanted to paint them, and so that's why I don't normally have fingernail polish on my fingers. So other pre-flight checks you do, you make sure, obviously you look at your drone and make sure that the blades are intact. There's no chipping or anything like that in them. You can unfold everything and deploy the drone rotors like this so that it's unfolded and ready to fly. You can check make sure, one of the other pre-flight checks is to make sure that you have an SD card in the baby. So right here in the back there's a tiny little slot right here on this side here where my finger is, and that's where the micro SD card goes in. So make sure that that's there. Usually you want to format your SD card before you fly, and you do that in the app. So do a little visual inspection, make sure everything's okay. Immediately before you fly, take this off. This is the gimbal clamp. Basically keeps the camera from moving around while you're transporting it. So you need to take that off before you turn the drone on, or else the drone's going to try to move the gimbal up and down, and it's going to fail, and it'll give you an error message, and eventually you're going to wear your gimbal motor out if you keep doing that. So make sure to take the clamp off. So the next thing you do before a flight is you want to make sure your firmware is up to date. So that's done in the app, and unfortunately it can only be done in the app when everything's powered on. So what you do is you take your phone and plug it into your controller. I'm just plugging it in here and put it in the arms. So these arms basically are just there to grab it. So like that. So the phone is inside the controller. I usually like to put the app on first, so I'll just fire up the app. There's the app loading. So right here it says enter device because it is not ready to go. So then I turn on the controller, and you do that. You press the power button up here in the top once, and then hold it. Makes a lovely beep. And then eventually you should see this change over here. I think that's where it changes. Disconnected. It's thinking. My phone's a little iffy on the plug, so it might need to replug it. So the red light here on the top indicates that there's not talking to the drone, which is not a surprise since I haven't turned it on yet. So I'm going to unplug and replug my USB cable. Oh, I felt the phone vibrate, so that's good. Alright, so then we have, it says RC connected. So that's half the problem. So I unfold the antennas here. And I'm just going to set that down and turn on the drone. So again, on the drone, there's the power button on the bottom here. You press it twice. Keep your fingers clear of the rotor blades because they're going to twitch. Press it once, press and hold. You see the rotors twitch a little bit. Does a little check, some lights come on, makes a big beep, and the gimbal just did a little seek to make sure that so it does a whole bunch of checks of its own. And at the end here, you get a nice flashing green light. That flashing green light means that it is talking to the controller. And in fact, if I look at the controller now, the controller has a green light, and it says here, go fly. So we're ready to fly. Now what you didn't see on the screen while it was doing that is it did a firmware check. So across the top it'll say checking firmware, and if you need to update the firmware on the controller or on the drone, it will tell you that and prompt you to do that. You should do that because you always want to have the most up-to-date software in case there's any bugs. One of the other things that might come up while you're doing this is it wants to update the Precision Fly database. That's a database of all of the geo-fenced areas. That's the areas where you're not supposed to fly a drone, and you should update that as well so that you have an up-to-date list of places you're not allowed to fly, or not supposed to fly. So the last thing to do here is go fly, and what it'll show you here is it gives you the, see if I got that right way up, yes, gives you this all of the basic status of the drone and settings for the drone. So overall status is normal, latest firmware it says at the top, and then it says flight mode opti, which is good, optical. It's not so good because I'm inside, so it probably doesn't have enough GPS. Set maximum flight altitude. I always do that, In Canada, currently the maximum flight altitude is 90 meters, so above ground. So I usually set 50, so I'm well within the 90, and I don't want to go too high anyway. Max flight distance you can set, so that's basically how far away you can go. In Canada, you can't go more than 500 meters away, so I have set it to 500. Compass calibrate. You should always calibrate your compass when you go to a new location. In order to calibrate the compass, you basically press that, and it walks you through a couple things. You basically have to hold the drone in your hand and rotate it horizontally, and then you rotate it vertically, and then it's good. The rest of these things I don't really do anything with. Vision sensor is normal. There's a bunch of other status things. Tells me the battery's 100%. Aircraft battery's at 99%. Battery temperature, blah blah. General status. Everything's good. There's the SD card capacity, internal storage, and you can format it right there. And then when you're done, you can click the close button, and you're ready to fly. And from here, all you have to do is you can do the auto takeoff right there, or you can use the controller sticks to make it fly. So that's the pre-flight checks that I go through for my drone. Thanks for watching, and like and comment below.